All right, coaches, just a quick video on some new things we have at the gym. So number one is called these landmine bombs. They're very simple. So there's an open end right here that you can just put the barbell in, and that goes on the floor. And we can use this to do some shoulder movements, some presses, some rotations and everything like that. Very, very versatile tool. The catch on it is a lot of times you might have to support this thing. So you can use a wall, you can use the rig, or you can use a dumbbell, as I'm gonna show you here, to support it so it's not moving. But also tell athletes the goal isn't when you're moving this thing or when you're doing exercises with this thing, the part of it is that you have the skill or you are doing the movement right, so it's not sliding across the floor, okay? So here's a quick couple movements of demonstrating what this looks like. So I'm gonna start off with a landmine press. Anything we're doing with a landmine in terms of a press, we're really looking for full range of motion. So that elbow should be tucked down by the rib cage. We should be locking out through, right, and pushing our head through, testing our ends range of motions at the top of those shoulder presses. We can do some rotations and we can do some explosive movements. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk through these quick. The first one is just the basics of a landmine press. Okay, so you're going to be having your hand on the barbell. You can see in the video this landmine bomb is supported by the dumbbell, but I'm gonna start right nice and tall, and I'm just simply gonna press and push my head through. If I wanted to load some weight, I would just put it on the sleeve, let that be on the floor, and then pick it up. But I can do a press this way, I can add in some legs, I can dip and drive, I can be really intentional with more of a rotational press where I dip and drive and push all the way through. I can also work on some jerk type things where I dip, I drive, and then I duck underneath that barbell. Something like that, right? In terms of rotations, we can start small, where we're looking for those eyes to be right on the barbell. We can start small and go here, and we can slowly get longer and longer, where my elbows are just barely bent, and then my arms are basically locked out. Once again, I can load weight on this thing to provide more resistance. So as we get more comfortable with these, you're gonna see them in the programming, but when you do see them in the programming, there'll be attached video that highlights really, really well what we're doing, and likely a good description on what's going on there. But just know members are gonna be probably a little uneasy with them, and they might slide across the floor, and some members use that dumbbell, use a kettlebell, use a wall, use the rig, a plate, whatever it is, to make sure that's not moving on the members. Number two is we finally got some barbell hip thrust pads. You can also use these for back squats if people have some issues with that barbell hurting their back. But barbell hip thrust is what I'm going to show you now. Number one reason to do these is it's a really good way to safely overload your glutes and develop the glutes in the posterior. Number two is it's a different way to hit the glutes. It's very, very glute dominant. Some people, when they squat, some people are glute dominant, some people are quad dominant, some people are hamstring dominant even, something like that. This should be very, very glute dominant. And number three is it should be just really easy for members to get into. So I'm going to show you what's going on here. 3 cues when they do this. Number one is the setup is important. So have your lats or the bottom of your shoulder blades really braced on that bench. You can see in this bench right here that I brace that bench up against the rig so it can actually push back. That gives people a little bit more safety and security. Number two is that barbell should be in your hips, and that hip pad should give you the comfortable feeling of it, that barbell not digging into your hips. Number three is shins, okay? So shins, once you're up in that movement, your shins should stay mostly vertical. If you see people's shins coming forward or going back, they're either gonna feel it in their hamstrings too much or their quads too much. We want those shins to be upright and vertical, and we want the glutes, right, to be the driving. So if you think about your butt cheeks being like this, they'll drive to extension and they'll come down. They'll drive to extension and they'll come down. You want to have control on the way up and control on the way down. Those plates can touch the floor just a little bit, but we don't want to slam them and then go again unless we're really comfortable getting very, very heavy with these. So really quick setup with these, and then I'll be done with the video. So when you set up on this movement here, you want to be on the bench first. So you're going to have my barbell probably underneath, right at shin level here. So I'm set up. I'm gonna get my bat wings or my lats nice and set up on the bench, roll this into my hips. My arms are going to be my support. My feet are flat on the floor, okay? And what I want you to think about, your shins and your kind of torso being at the same angle when you start. Once again, I use my hands to support here, and I'm gonna drive to extension, come back down. Drive to extension, and come back down. Maybe a quick tap, but I'm gonna drive big. For people who feel like they can get nice and heavy, they can pop that weight down, but they're really gonna have to focus on bracing here and then setting up. But this is what it looks like. Notice my shins are mostly or all the way vertical throughout that movement. Load that thing up heavy. People should feel safe getting underneath that thing. It's really a test, probably more of what people feel confident in doing than the weight they're doing, because they can get pretty heavy with that movement. Shoot me any questions if you have them. Landmines will be in the programming this week. Hip thrusts will be in the programming either late this week or early next week. Thanks. Reach out for questions.